Hello, everyone. I'm Brian. You are Chords and Notes Nation, and this is another reaction video. Not necessarily a music reaction video, but more along the lines of a a tribute to the late great Neil Peart. The words kind of fail me right now. It's been a rough couple of days for me. Beyond the moment that I heard the news, which was on Friday. This is also a time where a friend of mine from a while back had passed away as well, untimely. And the last time I was reminded that the last time I had spent any time with my friend was we were listening to Rush as well. So it's just sort of an ironic set of circumstances. And I figured originally I wasn't going to do a tribute, but it wouldn't be apropos of me to let this go by without saying something beyond what I typed on my page. I'm not going to be playing any music per se and listening to the music, because that's being done by some reactors already. And to me, it was a much deeper journey than just the music. When I first discovered Rush and I first discovered this amazing drumming that was going on. But then when I discovered the lyrics, which is what I really gravitated towards, what really made a connection with me, were written by the drummer as well, I was sort of in awe. And I remember, 1988 was right about the time that I discovered them. I would have been about 16 years old. And I remember I was walking back then. I had a Sony Walkman cassette radio unit that was running on batteries. And I used to wear those batteries out so much. But I remember I was walking home one day, and I had the headphones on, and the very first song of Rush that I heard was Working Man. And I just thought, wow, this is just absolutely phenomenal stuff. And of course, that was with the late great John Rutsey on drums, not Neil Peart. But at any rate, it was the music that first hooked me. And then when I went into discovering more about them, so I needed to go out. This was just before CDs were starting to become the new means of listening to recorded music. I went to our local mall. I think it was a Sam Goody record shop, and started buying as many Rush cassette tapes as I could. And the first one that I purchased was Caress of Steel. And even though it's not a highly acclaimed album, to me, it's because it was the first real dive into the pool, so to speak. My first experience with a full Rush album. It still holds a special place in my heart. And the lyrics and the concepts that were being written and sung just kind of blew me away. And from that point, it was just sort of a spiral upward into bigger and better things. And I think ultimately it like millions of other young males who were searching for their identity in a time where the world was changing technologically, the expectations were changing. It really helped me. His lyrics helped me. Well, not only inspiring me to listen to them more, but by listening to them more, the inspiration, which is one of the first things I want to talk about here, is what led me to start picking up guitar and wanting to know what this thing about music, music is all about. And so definitely Rush was my doorway into the world of music. And then of course came other bands that inspired me, such as Jethro Tull, Led Zeppelin, Iron Maiden, to name a few. But those were the big ones for me when I first started listening to music. But as my friends can attest to, it was Rush, always Rush with me. And the deeper I got into them, the more I was a zealot for Rush, and it always had to be Rush. We always had to listen to it, no matter where we were, whatever we were doing. It had to be part of every single experience that I was having. And they also he set the bar for me in the sense that, you know, the writing style, the quality of lyrics. Okay, here's a rock and roll band that can survive without swearing, without, well, you know, the usual stuff that was going on back then about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You know, singing about all that sort of stuff. Instead, it was full of integrity. It was about the human experience, about the challenges as an individual against society, the individual against yourself, and all the common conflicts that we would find in plot lines and stories are sort of the same kind of plot conflicts that we find in the plot line of our lives. All the different types of conflicts. And it was lyrics that came from songs such as Open Secrets, most especially that one really got me to start thinking along the lines of how we interact with one another. And Open Secrets is off of the Hold Your Fire album, 1987. Boy, I mean, the list goes on and on. Emotion Detector is one. I've done a number of Rush reactions on my channel. You can check them out. And I chose a lot of the ones that had lyrical impact on my way of thinking as a young adult. And that's the biggest thing. You know, a lot of people are coming in doing their tributes based on the music, and that's just, he was a monster musician who was a perfectionist, and you know, he was always talked about as being a machine. He had to play everything precisely, or as precisely as he possibly could, with consistency. And that's another quality that started to I started to build upon during my formative years, as I was growing into young adulthood. Is this idea of consistency, sensibility, integrity, and those are the honesty. What is that lyric in Natural Science? Off the Permanent Waves album, 1980. The most endangered species, the honest man. And you look at it now, and that was so prophetic for him to write, although it didn't take a prophet to see the writing on the wall, what was coming, how society has spiraled downward, and it's a gimme now society, and everything's okay. There's no sense of morality, but if there is morality, it's only one group of people that can dictate it, and if you don't go along with their ideas or their thoughts, then you're labeled a racist, or you're labeled anything that they can label you to denigrate you. And it's very adolescent, that mindset. And one of the things that Neil got me to think about over the years is sensibility. There's certain lines you just don't cross. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you have to do it. And the things that you do choose to do them well, do them consistent. These are the things that he brought to the table. These are the things that the concepts that he made me think about just through playing music and expressing his thoughts. He had a very, very deep impact on my formative years. There's, it's really difficult for me to find the right words to say for someone like this who's been lost. I just don't see that level of musicianship or lyrical integrity in music these days. It just, the culture that we live in has spiraled downward, and with his loss, that's a huge impact. Now, he also authored quite a few books and co-authored a couple. I have most of them, and I've read just about all of them. And it just, as a writer, again, writing a book, writing prose, writing lyrics, these are two different things. Writing songs musically, because he often felt that the structure of this was the really cool thing that he got me thinking, is the sentence structure of the music itself. Now, anybody who knows music theory understands phrases and sentences within music with the notes. And accents and all of these things are very similar to what we do with words. And words are just sounds anyways, right? Both can communicate. Both the sounds of drums, guitars, and that sort of thing can communicate a message just as well as words can, if it's done right. It's a tough loss. It's a real tough loss to handle. For those of you who weren't immersed in Rush the way I was, who weren't immersed in what it is they stood for, what it is he stood for. Now, yeah, he was a private person. He did not want all of the accolades and adulation. He just wanted to do what he did and do it to the best of his ability. That was his focus. His focus was on the craft, not on the results of it. But he was a real person who dealt with real issues, and so I'm not deifying him. I didn't agree with all of his statements, but I respected him. And I don't say that just because that's the thing to say when someone passes. I really, truly respected his opinions. I actually gave thought to them, even though I didn't come to the same conclusion as some of them. I came to the same conclusion with most of them. And that's this type of inspiration that we need to give to one another. I'm not going to get into anything other than, first of all, saying thank you, Neil, for everything that you left behind for us, what you've done for us. Being able to overcome personal tragedies and still come out of it maybe a better person. Um, that's an amazing journey. And those of you who want to know, his book Ghost Rider is all about some really intense life changes that happened to him surrounding tragedies of his first wife and first daughter, and how he dealt with it and how he came out of it. And I don't think many of us would have. So it really speaks to his fortitude, his commitment to life and making the most of it. And he wasn't greedy, he wasn't after the money. He wasn't after anything other than doing what he loved, chasing his dreams. That's another thing that Rush, or that he wrote a lot about, and the band as a whole spoke a lot about. Courageous convictions will drag the dream into existence. Off of the song Vital Signs, Moving Pictures, 1982. No, Signals was 82, so 81. Quite often in the lyrics, you would hear Neil writing about dreams and holding true to your dreams, and having the convictions of following through with your dreams. And excuse me a second. Should have turned that down. And that was another thing. That was another big concept for me to chew on as a young adult. I don't know, folks. It's take the time. I would really recommend that you take the time and listen to their music and listen to his words and really kind of chew on it. I know there's a lot of these reaction channels out there that are going for his drum solos and all that, but they're missing the beat on this, because as great of a drummer as he was that much better of a lyricist, in my opinion, because he spoke to the heart and he spoke truth. And it's their lyrics that, beyond, it's everything about them that set them apart. But it's the lyrics that really, they would have been a completely different band. In fact, they were a completely different band without his lyrics and his influence. And it's undeniable the influence that he's had on generations of musicians, both famous and otherwise. But it's not spoken enough. It's not said enough how influential he was on the hearts and minds of people via his words. You will truly be missed, Mr. Peart. I didn't get a chance to meet you. I was always a dream of mine. And that's okay, though, because I got to know you through your music and through your lyrics. And you were a major influence on my life as I was growing up. So thank you very much. You will be missed. That's all I have, folks. Be well, stay well, love one another.